Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I'm your host, Tommy Maloney. Before we get started, just want to let you know my new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m., is available on the website, blendingfamily.com. And if you order it from the website, it will be autographed, or you can also go to Amazon and purchase it that way. Either way, the new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. is out. Now, on with the podcast.
You have to know the line between, I think a lot of parents get afraid because they don't want to be their child's friend, right? We get stuck in, I don't want to be their friend, but sometimes we can be so, um, you can't do this, you can't do this, or, oh, you did this, so now you're going to get in trouble. Or, we can be so disciplined that our children at times become scared.
Yo, 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 what's up, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. If this is your first time coming by the podcast, thank you for doing it. To my regular audience, thank you as well. On today's episode, we have Estrella Rogers, aka Miss Star, on this podcast. Well, who is Estrella Rogers? She's a licensed clinical social worker, born and raised in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Star is the co-founder of Aspire, Reaching Beyond the Obvious, a nonprofit youth mentoring program service for ages 11 to 18, also in Jacksonville, North Carolina. She has a new book out, which we talk about, which is called Prayers for My Husband, a 30-day intentional prayer journal. We also talk about, well, let me just say, you might need to open up after you're listening, you might need to order something on Amazon besides her journal. Can you be your child's friend? We talk about that. My vote is yes. Send the hate mail. Go ahead. Tommy at blendingthefamily.com. There you go. And mentorship as a parent. We talk about that. Again, thanks for coming by. I am so grateful anytime somebody listens, downloads the podcast. Something that's been personal as of late. Been reading a lot lately about how a lot of people that returned back to work, what they were doing was, unfortunately, returning their pets back to adoption centers. That breaks my heart. The other piece of this is now that people might not have the same, I don't know. Are we in inflation? I don't know. I am no economics major. I can't even spell economics. But another issue along the pet line is people not having enough money to buy food for their pets. And I think it was in the UK I was reading about this, where they actually have food banks for pets. And I was asking my wife, Ann, who works here in the county, and she is heavily involved in community service. She's a Kwanian. And I was asking her about food bank as far as do they have a space for pets? And she said, yes, you can donate. You can donate pet food, apparently. Call or check a website of your local food bank and help out our pets, okay? Help them out. I was just, like I said, brokenhearted, hearing all these stories about how people can't afford, getting food for their family, and that includes our pets. Whew, a lot going on, really, in the world here. Let's briefly talk. Hey, the new book is out, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. You can get on the website, blendingthefamily.com. So if you order through my website, blendingthefamily.com, I will actually autograph it for you. I will send you a personalized note. So please go to the website, or you can go to Amazon and pay Jeff Bezos some money and get it that way. Either way, I'm grateful, okay? I'm grateful. And as we're speaking right now, our front yard is getting torn up and then put back together. We have this tree, or well, had the tree. They took that tree out last week. But when they built this house that my wife and I are in, we're the second tenants of this house. And what happened was they didn't bury the tree deep enough. So as the tree matured, the roots of the tree were above ground. Now imagine trying to mow around that. It has been a pain for the past few years. So my wife and I finally sat down with our budget and said, we've got to do this. So like I said, I can hear them right now. I don't know if you can hear the machines. The last I saw, we bought a new tree to replace the old tree, and they're working on. The ground must be extremely hard because those guys are working their tails off to make a hole for this new tree, and they tore up the grass. They were putting new dirt in, so I'm excited. This has been a long time coming, and then the next phase will be the inside of the house. So there you go. Like I said, on this episode of the podcast, we have Estrella Rogers, aka Miss Star, and it was a lot of fun talking to her. She is. We actually had a phone conversation before we did the podcast, and I normally don't do that, but a little behind the scenes, I got an email from Estrella's PR company, or whoever's representing her, and I always get hesitant when people do that, and I said, let's set up a phone call, and we set up a phone call, and that call was life changing because she is living her, as Simon Sinek would say, living her why, her purpose, her life purpose all in one. And that's where I want me to be. That's where I want you to be. You know, if you're not happy with that day job, you know, now the catchphrase is quiet quitting. What is it that you want to do? What is it that's going to get you out of bed and maybe from bed to your home office downstairs where I'm located? So anyway, Estrella is living that purpose. So after you listen to this conversation with her, I hope inspires you to move forward somehow, some way. All right, there we go. That's it. We've talked about this, talked about that. Again, go to blendingthefamily.com, order your copy of the new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m., and then I will personally write you a note in there. So please support me, which supports this podcast, which supports Otis, our dog, more importantly, right? Right. Support your food banks, and that's it. All right. If this is your first time listening, this is how we end this portion of the program, and that is, as Terry Crews would say, your success is my success. All right, well, here we are. Estrella, thank you for coming on the podcast. Sopa. Hey, I'm making up words as I go along. Very excited for our audience to learn about you because you have a great story. You have a great passion. And the last time you and I spoke, I told you how jealous I was because you are living your passion. You are living, as Simon Sinek would say, you are living your why. Mm-hmm. Let's start the beginning.
Okay.
As a young girl, what was it that you wanted to be when you grew up?
As a young girl, I actually wanted to be a lawyer. That was actually what I wanted to do as a young girl, but I had the desire and the goal to help people. And I just thought that through being a lawyer, and I really wanted to be a juvenile lawyer, I thought that being a lawyer, that was going to be the way that I would be able to help children. Um, and then, of course, later on in life, I learned that was not it. I learned that social work was going to be my way to help children. But that's always been my passion, helping people, helping children, just really being able to allow people to see that they can be anything they want, no matter where they come from and no matter what situation that they're in. It's just really important to me. And it always has been from childhood that people were able to see that and understand that they can be who they want to be.
Was the serving aspect, did that come from your family that, this is how we do things in our family, is being of service, or did it come from a different avenue?
I definitely believe that it came from my family. My mother, who actually she passed away 10 years ago now, and she actually she was a nurse as well. I have several aunts that are nurses now. Many of my family members are in the helping profession. So whether it's teachers, like I said, nurses, nurse practitioners, military, most of my family in some way, shape, or form is in the serving profession. But on top of that, they always give back. And so my mom was probably my biggest example. I remember before she passed away, her last trip that she took was to Africa, and she went on a mission trip to Africa. And after the mission trip, she actually became like a sponsor of a village. And to the point where one of the ladies actually, like her connect, she flew her here, and we were able to meet her, and we were able to see like all of the things that my mom's sponsorship was doing in the village. And of course, we sent them back with items and things like that. But my mom was a giver. She was a servant at heart, big in church. So, through church, she definitely gave and served and, just to the community. And so, through watching her, I believe that that was the seed in a sense that was planted for me that said, this is what we're here for, and this is what I'm supposed to do.
So let me ask you this. Obviously, because of your mom's influence, what other influences from your mom have you incorporated into your life?
Mm. I for sure would say hard work. um, I would say hard work for sure. My mom was very determined. Even from a young girl, at a young age, she was actually in a coma. And she actually ended up in a coma for about 12 weeks. Was struck with rheumatic fever. And they told her she would never be able to walk again, talk again, and let alone even have children, honestly, because it affected her heart. And so that's what actually put her in the coma. And she, like I said, she became a nurse practitioner. So, they told her she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk. She learned how to walk, she learned how to talk. She, obviously, against doctor's wishes, she even had me to the point where, I almost killed her. I will say that. I came home first. She had to stay in the hospital for several weeks afterwards. But they always told her there were things that she could not do. Um, and she did it. She was a Spanish speaking child when she came over here. Most of my family, they all migrated over here from Panama. Um, they spoke no English. I have another aunt today that's, like I said, a nurse practitioner. She owns her own business as well. But my mom is a hard worker. And so that was something that was taught to me, was hard work, definitely creativity. She was very creative. She was an artist. She was also a writer. And so, I'm also an author now. So, um, she was a poet and I write poetry. So, just a lot of her characteristics, her influences. She had a love of God that was like no other. And even her love of God showed in her life and the way that she lived. And I do believe that it's something that I definitely, now to today, definitely encompass, even in my walk with God and in my life and the things that I teach my children. So she definitely influenced me a great deal. She was an amazing woman, and many people, I will tell you this, when people meet me and they know of the things that I do, they always say, "You remind me of your mom." So I believe that she's influenced me a great deal, but especially as being a hard worker. Definitely.
What a great compliment that
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So as a young girl, you're walking around, you're carrying your suitcase, your briefcase, because you want to be a lawyer, but then you realize, not gonna happen for me. And then you get into social work.
Yeah.
So, that's, and again, this is why I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, because you you are doing so many great things.
Hmm.
Let's talk about how the social work has influenced other things that you are besides your book. You've got an organization. So, how did you end up falling into social work instead of going the way of law school?
Yeah. So I was in college, and I was actually at East Carolina University, and I walk into a social work class, and it was like intro to social work, and I was taking this as part of my so I thought criminal justice degree, and I go into this class, and the professor says, "Oh, so you want to be a lawyer?" And I said, "Yep, that's what I'm going to do." And she said, "Well, after this class, I guarantee you that you're going to change your major." And she was correct. I I completely changed my major midway in her class. And what happened was I fell in love with the grassroots and the hands-on of being a social work. The notion that I could actually create things and I could be a part of things that were, really hands-on. I realized like being a lawyer was great and I could definitely change the lives of children through law, but I couldn't really be hands-on and I couldn't really necessarily be in the fight, so to speak, like on the ground, as they say, boots on the ground. So um, I wanted to be boots on the ground. I wanted to be involved in all things that mattered. And so that's really why I chose to do social work instead, because I didn't realize, and I'll tell you this, I didn't realize how many things social workers are able, to do. Because growing up, we heard the word social work, and unfortunately, a lot of people hear social work and they automatically connect it to like the Department of Social Services. Um, but there's so much more to the world of social works. There's so many grassroots organizations that social workers have started. Obviously, nonprofit organizations, but working in even different what's the word I'm looking for? Even different professions. Like I didn't even know like McDonald's has a social worker on stand, and it's actually a clinical social worker. But they provide therapy for their staff, and other professions have therapy or therapists on staff. Even the NFL now has therapists on staff. So when I learned that I could really be hands on and really like have a personal experience and a personal walk with the kids that I wanted to help, I was like, okay, this is it. And so I changed my major and I fell in love with social work.
I gotta go back. I gotta go back to when that professor told you you are going to, I guarantee, change your major. How did that professor, impact you that way? How did, I mean, they could have just said that,
Hmm.
but without, executing, what they're saying. So how is that professor able to really change your mind going from, I'm going to become a lawyer to now I'm going to work in the world of social work?
Yeah. I think it was her ability to really show everything that number one that she had done, but again just being able to show all of the wonders that were in the social work path, and just being able to really like she really took us, and even in that class just really was able to kind of connect us with her stories. And for some reason I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but what she did was she had actually started some grassroots roots organizations in Greenville, in that area. And so she was sharing with us just a lot of the things that she was doing, even down to when it came to political matters. But she was even a part of those things and just really out there, like I said, on the ground. And so I just really looked up to that, and I was just like, wow, like I just thought it was amazing the things that she was actually involved in outside of being a professor, but the things that she was involved in, and she loved it. And it just really exuded from her when she was teaching in the classroom. And so for me, it was just like, I want that. Like, that's what I want. I want to be able to talk about my job and be able to talk about the changes that I've made and really be able to say, like, I'm helping people. And again, lawyers do help, but I want to be able to really, I want it to be able to have like a personal relationship with people, and to really be able to do that. And as a lawyer, it's kind of, you can meet people, but it's really time, there's kind of time capped, you don't get to follow them through their journey. And as a social worker, I get to do that. I get to mentor kids and have them from seventh grade on up, or sixth grade, I should say, on up. I get to work with my clients and really get to see them transform and see the transformation in them from the things that I've learned and the things that I'm able to teach them. And so, for me, again, it was just like, wow, like, this is what I'm called to do. This is my passion. And it's just who I am. It's just, this is me. I am a servant and I love to serve, and social work was what is allowing me to, to get paid to do what I love to do. To be very honest.
No, you have to be. I mean, it's one of those situations where, yeah, you get to do your passion, but at the end of the day, you still got to pay your bills.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love, honestly, I do love the field of social work and everything that it affords individuals to do. Even like I've never done hospice. But if you think about it, even like hospice workers have social workers, and the journey for social workers in hospice, like, they're able to be with individuals, until their last breath. Like, how amazing is that you get to be a part of someone's journey and make their last days a beautiful thing. Like, how amazing is that, No. Oh.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of hospice. Um, from the stand, this is going to sound really odd during this conversation, but I'm an odd duck. But from the standpoint of the veterinary world,
Mm,
we had a chocolate lab named Duke,
mhm,
and my mom had done this before, and she said, "Do hospice for your pets." And what that is, they come to your house. You don't, you know,
mhm,
take the dog or cat to the vet in that sterile
right.
environment. They come to your house.
Mhm,
And with Duke, the vet came to the house. She was very loving, and I'm going to try not to cry when I do this, because this is again why uh, you have such a great heart, because it's the language you're using about talking about, you get to be there,
mhm,
their last days, and be part of, you know, their journey to the next step. And with Duke, it was a beautiful moment where the vet said, "All right, are you ready?"
mhm.
And so that's when they administer the medicine, and you get to be there,
Yeah.
like you said. And um, eh, I remember in high school we had to do every semester we had to do ministry, and
Mhm,
I know a lot of my friends, they would go to hospice, and they had some beautiful stories.
mhm.
And I think that sometimes we forget that we're not guaranteed tomorrow,
Yeah.
and to understand to and I can't say this enough about you, after having our first conversation, how jealous I am of you are, and we haven't even touched the surface about your nonprofit, your book. And so again, you were talking about when people talk about social workers, yeah, they have that negative connotation that it's not what we imagine it to be. We look at it from the flip side, that it's a negative thing. And so you are on the forefront of changing people's attitudes when they say social workers.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. And
So let's talk about your nonprofit. So you started your nonprofit in 2009.
that's correct.
Tell us about it.
So it's called, my nonprofit is called Aspire, Reaching Beyond the Obvious. It's a nonprofit for youth that are 6th to 12th grade. Um, it's really important, and I'll just kind of a little bit. It was founded by 4 women, and we kind of had conversations about our community and the fact that in our community there weren't a lot of mentors at the time, and so we decided that we were going to go out and we were going to start Aspire, and the name of it, Reaching Beyond the Obvious, is just that. So we're from a small town, Jacksonville, North Carolina. Which is getting a little bigger now, but it was very small then. And the idea was that for these kids to be able to see that they could aspire to reach beyond the obvious of what they just saw or what people thought of them, that they could be more than, the what people kind of the box that people put them in. And so we started this organization. And once again, my mom actually, before she passed, she gave us the seed money to start the organization. And we have done this now for this will be our because started in 2009, so this will be our 12th year, I believe, if my math is correct. And so well,
Yeah, I don't do math. I can't
yes,
help you
12 to
here.
13 years. So what we do is we actually we meet with the kids twice a month. And we take them, we do, like I call it, college, like what's they're called? They're like teen style, teen summit style conversations. And so we do skill building with them. We do open conversations, but we talk to them just about their lives, and we teach them things that, of course, that they're going to need to know as they move forward in life. And so we meet with them twice a month. We do an activity once a month. We do community service. We take them on college tours, and we don't just do like college tours in town. So we have went to Washington, D.C. We've taken them to Georgia twice because we went to Savannah and then we went to Atlanta area. So we've taken them to Georgia, South Carolina. So a lot of places on the East Coast, and of course all through North Carolina. But we've taken them to college tours. We take them to games. We went to the Battle of the Bands in Georgia. So we ask them what experiences and what things they may have, they want to do. And then we take them to places. We went to a Broadway show. So it just ranges from things that we've done over the years. And then as we're doing this, we also offer a scholarship. So and the scholarship is actually in my mom's name. It's called the Estrella Wilson Scholarship. And so we also offer a $1,500 scholarship every year to a senior, but then we give a $250 scholarship to an underclassman. And so the underclassmen know that they have the ability actually to start getting the scholarship from 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. So we had one person that won 3 years in a row. So she ended up
Wow.
getting 750 when she graduated, right? And so because we want them to like already know like these things can be theirs, these things can be in place for them. And so we do drive that also. One of our, and when I talk about serving, one is our staple community services events that we do is called the Winter Closet. And what they do at the Winter Closet is that the kids are collecting clothes like the entire year. So they've already started collecting clothes. And a couple of weeks prior to the closet, we send out letters to all of the schools. And the schools provide us with students that they deem as in need, or that they deem as like they're homeless, or well, basically they're in need. And so we give them vouchers. And on one day, we close down the entire gym and we fill the gym with clothing. And the entire family is allowed to come shopping for the entire day. And they get bags. Each family member gets a brown bag of clothes and they're allowed to fill it up. And we normally get over 150 families that come
Wow.
into this building.
Oh my gosh.
It's when I tell you it's amazing, it's like something that you just have to be there for. because our teenagers are working the event. So they're working the event, and then to watch them, they're helping like younger kids like shop, and some teenagers come in with them, and they may see somebody from school, and they don't shun them. They don't make them feel uncomfortable. They're like, they talk to them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like look at this, like you might like this." So like even when they're looking at their peers and they realize that, whoa, this person is less, has less than I have, they're helping them. Some of the kids that are in my program, they actually would be on the list. And so they're allowed to shop also. I actually let them shop before people come in because they're working the event, but I know that some of our kids are actually in need as well. And so their families also get to shop. But it's, when I say it's amazing and it's an eye opener for the kids. I remember last year, a little girl, I'll never forget. She had to be like 9. She comes in and in her shirt, like you could tell, like she had probably wore the shirt that she had on for a couple of days. Her clothes were kind of really dingy. And if she hadn't wore it, they were dingy. Her clothes were dingy, and she was trying to fit her foot in a shoe that was too small, and she was determined to get her foot in the shoe. And one of the kids saw it, and they came to me, and they like, "Miss Star, like this, we don't have any shoes for her." And I said, "Okay, well, I don't know. I said, let me figure it out. I'll see what we can do." And one of the moms, she saw it, and she asked the little girl, she said, "What size do you wear?" They happened to wear the same size. The mom went into her car and got a pair of sneakers and gave it to the little girl.
Aw.
And so it's things like that that, the kids, I've had kids give stuff off of their bodies to kids. Like it's an eye-opening event for our kids, for our parents, the community, because they're helping those, and they're learning. The kids are learning to serve as well. And so it's an amazing organization. After it's all said and done, our kids, they go off to college, and I'm so grateful because even though they leave, they always come back and they ask, like, what do we need to do to help? Or, they'll call me when they're having struggles in college, and they'll say, "Hey, Miss Star, like I got this going on and I don't have anybody else to talk to." Whether it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they're calling. And to me, that means like my mom didn't make me do this. My mom's not making me call you. Like we actually have grown connection, and we grow bonds with our children that come through this program. And to me, it's amazing. Like it's life changing. And this, we do for free. So this is a nonprofit. All of my volunteers, I have male volunteers, female volunteers, and they're all from different walks of life. I have therapists, life coaches, retired military members, but they come in and they give of their time for these kids. And I'm just very grateful to them, and I'm always grateful for my kids because I love them. I call them my babies. They're our Aspire babies, I call them. But I do. I love the organization, and yeah. So that's Aspire. That's my nonprofit. We do a lot, and we try to do a lot for our community, and it's amazing.
I want to take a quick break just to remind you that my new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m., is available on the website, blendingthefamily.com. And if you order it from the website, it will be autographed. Or you can go to Amazon and also purchase the book. Again, the name of that book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. Now, let's get back to our guest. Shall we? Let's. Can you give our audience an example of one of your students that graduated and, one of their stories?
Yeah, so I actually have I can give you I have some great stories. I have some heart-wrenching stories. I'll tell you 2 stories, so I'll kind of give you both. Um and just in regards to what the connection looks like, I'll give you kind of my heart-wrenching story first, I would say. Um one of my girls, and I'll never forget this. One of my girls, she had graduated, and this was about 2 or 3 years later, after she graduated, and I hadn't heard from her in a while. Every once in a while, I would see her, but I hadn't heard from her, and I knew that she hadn't left, but I knew that she graduated. And so what happened was, one night she calls me, and it was probably about 10 o'clock at night, and I was at my sister-in-law's house, and she's crying, and she said, "Miss Star, I need help. I need help." And I said, "Okay, well, calm down." And so she said, I told her, I said, okay, well, meet me here. I gave her somewhere to meet me. And I get there at the corner, and it's a corner of a busy street, and we're met at a gas station, and this is 10 o'clock at night. And she comes walking down the street with her 1-year old in her hand. And she has no shoes on. Her hair was disheveled, and you could tell that, she'd been crying. So I knew she'd been through something. And as soon as I saw her, I grabbed her. And as soon as I grabbed her, she just let out this heart-wrenching scream. And she just fell in my arms in the parking lot. Like I'll never forget this moment because it tore my heart up. But we immediately, once I got her together, and we're literally just sitting on the floor at 10 o'clock at night, and she's crying. And my sister-in-law helped me. We got her together, and we got her to the homeless shelter. In several weeks, it took a while, but I was able to get her, help with housing and set up with a couple of people in the community. But I know that she has been through several phones. I know that she had been through several different places. And the night that she needed someone that she would feel safe with, she called me. And when I talk about what social work means or what this program means to me, that's what it means to me. It means that when these kids know that they're in trouble, or when they know that they need to talk to somebody, they come to me, right? Or one of our facilitators, because I'm not the only one they'll call. And so I would say that was one of them, right? Um, and I say that one was more heart-wrenching. But on the other side of that, right? Um, I have one student who one of my babies, who graduated. She graduated high school, and she's now a student at UNC Chapel Hill. And the ironic thing about her is, and I love her to death. She's a journalism major at Chapel Hill. And so I'm watching a video one day, and this is actually right when I was going to do my book. I was doing my book, and I'm watching a video, and it's a documentary on a Navy vet that's here in our city. And she was actually the first. She's actually a mentor for Aspire as well, but she was actually the first female corpsman in the Marine Corps to serve in the Marine Corps, believe it or not, or with the Marine Corps, I should say, because she's in the Navy. But she was the first Navy corpsman female to serve in the Marine Corps. And so she's a big deal here in our area. And so I'm watching her documentary. And as I'm watching the documentary, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And at the very end is the name of my Aspire baby. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this documentary is floating all over the place, and like this woman is in like a museum in DC, like, so she's like a big deal. She's in memoir books and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like she created this? Like I had no idea that she had created it. And so I called her and I was like, hey, do you do trailers for books? And she's like, I've never done it before. And I was like, you want to try? And so now I actually hire her for all of my videography and everything
Wow.
to do. Yeah, but it comes full circle, and she's actually another one that, anytime she has a problem when she comes home, she's like, Miss Star, can we go to lunch? And she goes to lunch with a lot of the other mentees as well. But she's like, can we go to lunch? Or I got this problem. I just need to stop by and talk to you. And so again, like, two different stories, but they both felt and feel like when they come home or when they're in need, we're still connected. And I love when I can hire them for things like I said, many of them have gone on to do other things, but if I can hire them, if I can sew back into them, one of them actually, she's a poet right now, and she's actually off she's a producer for movies and things like that. And some of my guys, they've gone on to, and I get close with the guys, but I have male mentors, so they get really close with the guys. So they get that opportunity to be a little closer with the males. But even them, they call us when they come home and they come back. I have one of my old ones, he's actually helping out as a mentor now. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like I said, they come back. and it's a beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful thing, um, to know that what we set out to do, it actually happens. And of course, like I said, everybody doesn't have the same journey. But anytime they have a need or anytime they just need to feel like, hey, I just need to talk to someone, um, they reach out. They reach out. And we reach out to them and we sow back into them. And so we support them. And those are, yeah, those are two stories, two different stories, but I think it shows what the organization means to people and the importance of mentorship and the importance of us, just giving back to our children and to our youth in our communities.
I got so many things, so many directions. So my first question, Miss Starr, is how is that young lady today? The first story you talked about.
So the first story I talked about, and I will tell you, we did lose touch after a while. She is actually, though, from the last I heard, which was probably about a year ago before COVID, she was actually doing okay. She was staying with someone. So she was staying with some friends, but she's doing better. Unfortunately, a big part of her battle, and I shouldn't say unfortunately, but a big part of her battle is she does deal with some mental health issues as well. And
Mm.
so that is an up and going battle for her. But she has support and she does have support of her family. And so she is still dealing with some things. But to my knowledge, and like I said, it's been about a year since I heard from her last, but she's actually doing okay.
The next thing you talk about mentorship, and I recently saw on LinkedIn there was somebody had posted a poll on there about do you have a mentor, and the numbers were pretty low.
Hmm.
And as I'm actually standing because I have a standing desk. Love my standing desk. But as I'm standing here hearing you, it is so important to have a healthy relationship with a mentor.
Hmm.
And I also want to correlate that to parenting because you talk about how these young people reach out to you. And my question is there some type of disconnect between these young people and their parents where they don't feel safe to go to their parents?
That's a great question. Um, And so I will say this, I get to see this two-sided, right? Because I'm a therapist as well as a mentor. And so I get to see a couple of different sides of children and get to see really kind of where their hearts lie. And so one of the things I will say is that I do believe for some children, there is a disconnect when it comes to their parents. A lot of that could be for some people, they don't want to let their parents down. They don't know how to talk to their parents necessarily. And this is really where, as parents, you have to know the line between, I think a lot of parents get afraid because they don't want to be their child's friend, right? We get stuck in, I don't want to be their friend, but sometimes we can be so, um, you can't do this, you can't do this, or, oh, you did this, so now you're going to get in trouble. Or, we can be so disciplined that our children at times become scared to talk to us, right, as parents. And so, and I'm even speaking this for myself because this is something that I've had to learn. But so there are times where we can become disconnected from what our kids are doing. We can become disconnected from what they're dealing with. And so, yeah, I will say that. And even in my older kids, and when I say older, like my ones that have graduated, there are times when they do come to me and they say, I don't know how to talk to my parents about this. And I'll say, all right, look, like, so let's troubleshoot it. Let's troubleshoot it and let's see how you can talk to them about the situation that you have going on. And so a lot of times it's just that it is that they have a fear. I'm going to get in trouble if I talk to my parent about this, or if I talk to my parent about this, they're not going to understand because, we're definitely living in a different world now than the world that we grew up in. And so a lot of kids feel like my parent is not going to understand this, or my parent is not going to try to understand. I'll tell you, me and my kids, we have something that, they have mom and then they have therapy mom. And this this is something
Hold on. I got to step right. So, do they get a family discount when it's therapy
right.
mom, or do you charge them your full rate?
No, they get it's pro bono. It's pro bono.
Pro bono.
It's pro bono, but they do it, and they'll say that they'll say, "Okay, mom, like I don't need mom. I need my therapist mom." And my youngest uses it all the time. My oldest, he just kind of talks to me about anything, and I'm so grateful we have that relationship now. But he does sometimes. I'll say, "You can't do that," or "You're no, that's not going to work." But he's 17, and so we kind of have I would say a pretty open relationship now with me and their dad. But my youngest, he really deals with some things, and he does deal with anxiety as well. And so he will say, "I need my therapy mom," or "I'll just need a hug," or something. And so, but I know when he says that, that means, okay, like I need to listen. I know that means I need to really, sit down and put on my listening ears, and I really need to hear what he's saying for understanding. And I really need to hear him and be able to help guide him on certain things. So when he has issues, with his friends, or when he has issues with certain, I don't say, "Oh, well, you should know what to do," or, but no, I listen and I help guide him. And as parents, we have to do that. And so in my program, like I said, a lot of times for the kids, that's what it is. It's just a matter of they feel sometimes my parent isn't going to understand. And so on the other side of that, I'm grateful because actually in my parent meeting, we just had a parent meeting a couple weeks ago. And one of the parents, she told the other parents, because one of the parents was like, "Well, we can't come to the meetings." And I said, "No, parents are not allowed in the meetings because then the kids aren't going to want to share. So
Right.
they can't come in." And but one of the other parents, she said, "Let me tell you something." She said, "My kids," and she's had all three of her children in our program, and some of them, two of them have now graduated, and we have actually she's had four because one of them, she now raises her niece, so we've got four kids of hers, and she said, "Let me say something," and she stood up and she said, "I will tell you this, when my kids can't come to me, they go to them." And she said, "There have been times where my kids have thought, you know, they didn't know what to do in life. Like, I mean, I've had crying, like in tears, they've came to us." And she said, "I trust them with my children. I've trusted them with all my children because I know that they're going to give them good advice." And she said, "I'd rather them come to them than go out to their friends." And she said, "So if this means that there may be, they have to talk to an adult before they come and talk to me, or, they have somebody that's going to help them," she said, "This is our village." And to hear a parent say that is, again, I mean, I'm honored, and it's so, again, just, I guess, I don't know, honorable, or just heart touching. I don't know what the word is, but because they trust us. They trust us, and it also, though, puts weight on what we do to know that they trust us like this. So, yes, I feel like a lot of kids, to answer the question, a lot of kids are fearful of talking to their parents. A lot of kids are disconnected from their parents. And as parents, we just have to really do a good job of talking to our kids, getting involved in what they're doing. Like at the end of the day, even my program, no, the parents can't come to the meetings, but the parents can volunteer. The parents can help plan things. When we have events, the parents are allowed to be a part of the events. They just can't come to meetings and they can't come on trips because I have more than enough mentors to do that. So, but they can be involved in everything else that we do. And so when you're a parent, the question is, how connected are you? Do your kids, do their friends come to your house? My doors are always open for all of my kids' friends because I want to know what they're doing. I want to know who they're talking to. I want to know who they're hanging around. And so as a parent, do you allow that? Do you know your kids' friends? And so it's just really important for us in order to try to stay connected, to be able to hear them, to know what they're doing, to know what's going on in their lives, and to be a part of what they're doing and not just sending them off, so to speak.
So Miss Starr, before, because I really want to talk about your book,
Mhm.
because I really want to get your talking about your husband
Yeah.
and how much the two of you have become a team.
Mhm.
Before I get there, so you're talking about can parents be friends with our kids? I'm one of those parents that say, yeah, I have no problems with parents being friends up until a point. And here's my example. I'm gonna say, because my parents divorced when I was about 5,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom, as her and I, or you know, the as we grew, there were times where she was my friend,
Yeah,
but when it came to discipline, she was my mother,
that's right.
mother with a U.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, um, so I have a very strong. I want to. All right, he's not here
Mm-hmm.
to agree or disagree, but I want to say I feel
Mm-hmm.
I have a really strong relationship with my son because I've built that bond with him, and we've had these conversations in the past, and even recently, he just moved to. He's 19. He just moved to California to go play hockey,
Wow.
and I've told him. I said, I'll jump on a plane if you need me to.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever feel you're in a situation that you're not comfortable with, you call me.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that message has resonated with him. But it goes back to what you're talking about of building that connection with our kids and letting them know that it is a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
That, let's say you are in a situation that it's not a good place, no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the kids fear is that if I call mom or dad and they have to pick me up and they get the riot act, it's like, hold on here. You said,
Yeah.
and I feel that's where the disconnect happens, is that we parents don't walk the talk.
Yeah. I would agree, and I definitely agree. And it's funny because my kids and I have the same thing. I think I watched something one time on TV, but I told them, no matter where you are, if you're somewhere that you're uncomfortable and you don't need to be there, just text me an X and I'm on my way. I'm like, you don't have to text anything else, just put X and I'm coming. And so they know that. And I do tell them though, like, and I think this is where the difference comes in between mother and father and friend is that we are going to talk about it, but I'm not going to give you the riot act for calling me. We may, after I get you together and you're good and you're safe, we'll talk about, well, the decision that you made, maybe the people that you were hanging about with, and maybe, you not making that decision again and being aware of your surroundings and really, understanding. But the fact that you called me to come and get you out of the situation, to me, says that you understood that that's not where you needed to be, and you understood that you made the wrong decision. So we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to yell, scream, and fuss and do all that stuff. I'm not going to do that, because if it happens again, I need you to call me again. And so that's where I think that like you just said, like, your mom was your friend, but then she was your mom. Like, when it was time for to be disciplined, like, I'm always their mom, and you're always his dad, but they have that space. And so yeah, I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that.
So let's talk about the book, Prayers for My Husband.
Yes, the book.
I am I again, the conversation you and I had, because you and I talked about the importance of date night and your um, tip about your unique date night. But
Mhm.
how did the book come about?
Wow, the book. So the book actually came about. Now, me and my husband have been together. We've been together for 20 years. We've been married for 13. Actually, last month was our 13th year anniversary. Um,
Happy anniversary!
thank you. So a couple of years ago, we had got into this place in our relationship that was very rocky. And it was one of those places where, to be very honest, I didn't know if we were going to go left or we were going to go right. So I didn't know if we were going to like pull through. or if we were going to call it quits. So I just didn't know where we were. And what happened was we found ourselves finding joy in other things instead of our relationship, because what we did was we allowed, and I again, I love my kids, but we allowed kids, we allowed our kids, we allowed our jobs, we volunteering. My husband is also a coach, so he's a football coach also, after work. So that's what he does, and we just kind of allowed everything else to take place and be priority over our relationship. And we found ourselves at a place where we just kind of were like two ships passing in a house. And it was just not a good place. And it was one of those, where you get everything kind of gets tense, and there's a lot of contention in the house, and just it just wasn't good. And so we ended up at that place. And so we're in the middle of this fork in the road, and God tells me to pray. I was on my way home, and it was just so clear. And it was just, just like, pray for your husband for 30 days. And I was like, oh, I pray for him all the time. And it was like, no, no, pray for him for 30 days. But be specific in your prayer, and in your prayer, cover him from like the crown of his head to the soles of his feet. And write the prayers down. And so the instructions were so clear. So I was like, okay, I'll do this. And so I started to do it. And so I created my own journal for myself, and I'm praying for him. And I started like at his head, went to his eyes, nose, mouth, like every inch of his body. For 30 days, I prayed for, down to even characteristics. And the interesting thing was, around day 15, we got to a place where I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I was like, I don't care what happens in this relationship at this point. But I kept praying, and I kept going. And we actually, at the end of 30 days, ironically, we actually end up going to counseling. So I'm a very strong believer in marital counseling. We end up going to counseling, and between prayers and counseling, I do believe that our marriage was saved between the two of those. And of course, the changes that we put in place, from learning and counseling and prayer. And so 2 years later, no, not 2 years later, it was a couple of years later now, but several years later, during COVID, I was sitting there, and I just heard, make it a book. And I was like, make what a book? It's like, in God's voice, just like, make the journal a book. And I was just like, ooh, okay. And I was like, okay. I was like, if this is really what I'm supposed to do, God, I said, he's going to be okay with it. And when I said he, I meant my husband, because I'm out there. Like, I'm on this podcast. You'll probably never find my husband on the podcast. I'll never say never, but he's a very quiet man. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I wrote this journal several years ago, and I told him it was a prayer journal about him. And he was like, what? Because he never knew about it. He never knew about it. And I said, in my prayer time, I said, God just, told me to publish it. And he's like, well, as long as it's going to be general and not just about, just me, like, whatever. I was like, no, it's not, it's general for everybody. And I said, I'm going to change it and get it edited. And he said, okay. And when he said, okay, I knew that that was what I was supposed to do. I knew that was God, and I knew that's what I was supposed to do. I called one of my friends. She's an editor. I told her about it, and she was like, I'll do it. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, I'll do it. Without hesitation, she was like, let's do it. And so she helped me. And I'll tell you, this is the power of prayer. When she was editing the book, I think maybe about halfway through, I called her and I was like, hey, I was like, it's due like a month ago. Like, she hadn't gotten it done yet. And I was like, we're going to miss the deadline. And she said, Star, she said, I'm sorry. And they call me Star. Today I mean Star. But she said, Star, I'm sorry. She said, I was editing your book, and I found myself praying for my husband. And she said, and we went through something while I was editing your book, and I had to do the book. And so she's praying for her husband while she's trying to edit, but then has her own thing, and so it just turned out, like I said, I did, I asked for, my Aspire baby to do a trailer for me. She did a book trailer. It was amazing. And so now I have this prayer journal, that women literally all over the world now are reading. And I can say that, so gratefully, because I have people in Guam and Japan and all these people that are reading it, which is so exciting. And they're praying for their husband. And we had a retreat, And so we went on a 3-day retreat. So it's 4 days retreat. We went on a retreat and we got another one coming up. I believe it's going to be in February, but we turned it into a retreat. There's a Facebook group for the people that buy the book. So when they buy the book, they're able to come to a community where they can be supported. And we get up in the morning and we pray at 5:30 for our husbands and for our lives and for each other. And it's been an amazing journey. It's been an amazing journey.
Tell the audience about date nights, because you are very busy, your husband's very busy, you have a blended family. What tips do you have for date night?
Date nights can be so fun and just whatever you want them to be, right? So we do a couple things. So number one for us, and this is my main thing for every couple that is out there, busy or not, you have to put date nights on your calendar. So that is number one. If it's not on your calendar, probably it's not going to happen. So for us, we do payday weekends. So every 2 weeks, that we know that's our date night weekend, and our kids know that night, either Friday night or Saturday night, obviously depending on football season. But I work remote. The Saturday nights normally, or Saturday is our date day or date night, and so we make it a point to have it scheduled. I always tell people if you don't schedule it, there's a possibility it won't happen. We always schedule the important things. If you have a meeting at work, it's on your schedule. If your kids have a game, it's on your schedule. If you don't put it in your schedule, then what's going to happen is you're going to look 3 weeks later and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, we missed our date night because it wasn't on your schedule, right? So that's one thing. The other thing that I always tell people is to split the planning. So if you're going to do two a month, some people do one, but if you're going to do two a month or one a month, whatever, rotate. So one person gets to plan the date one time, the other person gets to plan the date the other time. And so now the responsibility is not on one person. Because I always hear people say, well, I'm always the one that plans date nights and I don't want to do it anymore. Okay, fine. So split it. Split the responsibility. One person does it one time, the other person does it the other time. So now you know that you're going to have 2 dates a month and you only have to plan one of them. Right. And so that's something you can do. The other thing you can do, which I like, I call it planned spontaneity. And so what you're going to do is you go ahead and you say, okay, this is our date day. The person that now, if you guys know nobody wants to plan it, they have on Amazon, there's this box. It's called Date Night Ideas. And I love it because it's a scratch off. And so what you do is you pull something out of it, you scratch it off, and whatever you scratch off, that's what you have to do. And so I like it because, like I said, it's a planned date, but we don't know what we're going to do in that date. And so you can do that. If you don't have time to do those things, you could do the little things. We go on a walk 3 times a week. So when we get off of work, we plan it. We know we get 30 minutes to an hour just of walking around the neighborhood. And it's my husband and I, and that is our time. You know, it's supposed to be exercising, which we do, but it's also our time of talking. I get to know what's going on in his world, in his day. He knows what's going on with me. We do talk about the kids, we talk about life, but like I look forward to our walks in the neighborhood because I know that even in my busy schedule, that's the time that I get to spend with my husband. So whether big dates or small little intimate things, um, you can you can do it. Everybody can do it. You know, meet on the back porch. Put the kids to bed. If you have little kids, put the kids to bed. And then plan a date night in the living room or plan something, on the back porch. You may have to be a little creative, but you make it happen. It has to be a priority.
I love it. I loved all those, especially, the walking,
Yeah.
because you really don't have to think about it. It's, hey, let's go for a walk.
Mhm.
Let's just get out and go. Um, and I didn't know about the Amazon box. I will have to um, put an order in for Amazon and pick that up.
I love it. It's pretty cool. I'm like, dang, I gotta create my own. But it's called
Yeah.
I'm like promoting Amazon all the time, but no, but it's called Date Night Ideas, and it's 35 date challenges, and they have some really cool date night ideas actually in it. It's a pretty cool box.
That is
I
cool.
like it. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm gonna have to put that order in. Before I give you the last question,
Mhm.
let the listeners know how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. So I am online at www.starlevelcoaching.com. So you can go to my website. If you are in North Carolina, you can also reach me at www.withoutlimitscounseling.com. So I'm a therapist and a coach, so I kind of have two ways there. You can reach me at my email, which is long, but it's Estrella Rogers, LCSW at gmail.com. So you can reach me there if you want to as well. And it's just my name, my full name, and LCSW at the end. But I can be reached also on Instagram at Star Level Coaching. And then on TikTok, it's under my name at Estrella Rogers. So you can meet me or see me on any on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, um, just all of the above.
I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on TikTok. Oh well.
Well, you can call, 910
Yeah,
210
there we go.
0006. You can call me.
All right, Miss Star. So the last question. Are
Yes.
you ready?
I am ready.
Here we go. The last question is, what are you looking forward to tomorrow? What are you looking forward to tomorrow? It could be the literal, meaning the next day, or in the future. Your choice. What are you looking forward to tomorrow?
Wow, that's such a loaded question, to be honest. I am looking forward to see what God has next for me on my journey.
Ooh,
Um,
that's beautiful.
yeah, I have a lot of I have a lot of my hands. They're in a lot of pots right now. Um, but I'm really looking forward to see what's next for me and what the seeds that I've planted, what they will grow into, and what things will become. I'm excited for my family and just, and I know that I don't know if that was a one line answer supposed to be, but I have a son that's going to college next year, and just there's just a lot of things that are changing in my life right now, and so I'm just excited to see what God has next on this journey that I'm on. To be very honest.
Well, I hope you're honest.
Yeah. I try to be. But yeah, and I will tell you if I was gonna be specific, I'm actually opening a group practice right now. I have 3 clinicians that I just hired, and so, professionally, that's next on my, in my journey professionally, and so I don't know what God has for this business. I've been told by many people, that it's going to be big. And so I believe that, and I believe that, even through my book and just other things that lives are going to be changed and things are going to be shifting for other people as well that are attached to me. And so um, I'm just excited. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what happens next on this journey.
Estrella Rogers, aka Miss Star,
Yes.
thank you so much for your time today. Um, yeah, this has been a blast. I am so grateful that your peeps reached out, and I'm just blown away. I am just this is going to be just like when we first talked.
Hmm.
Your energy, your purpose is going to carry me the rest of my day to just going, what a great day because of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have to say the same. I truly, I'll tell you really quickly, I was tired before this, I think because I slept too long. But speaking to you, um, I don't know. I'm smiling. I've been smiling through this whole thing. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I just thank you for even allowing me to share in this moment on your platform. So I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you very much.